Since Columbine, school shootings have lasted anywhere between 2 and 77 minutes, with an average time frame of 19 minutes long. These current methodologies of using lockdowns to just keep students trapped inside of a school, it to me is a highly insane way to defeat this act of terrorism. Yesterday, I had a question posed to me asking about, hey, would you want kids just running all over the place whenever there is an active shooter? And so I tried to be as concise as I could, but then they had a great follow-up question. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down exactly what I've seen over the years from Columbine until recently, studying active shooter schools incidents and the lessons that I've extrapolated from them. And I hope that you find the same level of sanity in this video and take it forward and go say something to your school districts and your kids' schools, because they are not going to be doing what we talk about here today. That I can guarantee you, that's for sure. So lockdowns keep students in danger, all right? What I did is I surmised a lot of this information using Instagram or Grok AI to basically distill all this stuff down into a quick YouTube video. So there are a lot of things. We're just hitting the wave tops. Ask the questions. I've been looking into this for a very long time, very passionate about it, but I don't do it at all anymore because no schools would ever do it with me to begin with, which was insane. But I have my own theories behind that as well. And so, all right, let's take a look at the incidents coming from Columbine all the way up until 2025. So one of the biggest problems with lockdowns, guys, is that people will say, cops are on the way. Average police time, 4 to 6 minutes. Well, here, when we look at the data, it shows that there is an average timeline of 19 minutes. Like, for example, Uvalde, 77 minutes long. Students were trapped in the classroom. Columbine, 49 minutes long. Parkland, 6 minutes long. And these are just a couple of them that I pulled from the actual list of the data that we have. The point is that on average, it's a 19-minute duration. When you think about lockdown procedure, you should be thinking about it at 19, 20 minutes long, not 2 to 4 minutes, not cops are right there at the front door coming. No, you should actually sit in silence for 20 minutes and actually see how long of a period of a time that is and ask yourself, how freaking far could you have ran from the school at this point if you would have just smashed one of the big ass windows that are probably in the classroom, which the vast majority of classrooms have windows. And we'll get into how you could make that better than having to smash it with a brick or something, and run. How far could I have gotten? So anyways, ask yourself that question. Now, how do we encourage, or what can we do to positively influence the current policies and procedures? And ladies and gents, it is super simple. Distance equals safety. When somebody is shooting at you, and I could tell you this as my experience coming from a former MARSOC Marine, the farther you are from them, the probability of you being struck with that projectile, it goes exceedingly down. And in fact, I'd have to double check some numbers here, but if my memory serves me correctly, and I'm pretty sure it does, the vast majority, like over 80, 90% of people hurt and killed in active shooter situations are within like 30 yards of the shooter, minus a couple of anomalies like Vegas, etc. But when you look at the distance in which you're going to be engaged by an active shooter in a school setting, it's not long distances. It's not big, far distances. And so getting out and running increases that distance, and then therefore makes it very difficult for you to be harmed or hurt. One, statistically, because you've already exceeded the statistical boundaries of where people get injured and killed predominantly, and just because, due to the law of physics, you're getting very far from somebody trying to shoot you. I'm not a scientist here, guys. It is the most basic idea and fundamental in concept ever. Like, oh, I want to shoot you. Okay. I'm 3 feet from you. Probably going to shoot me. I want to shoot you. Okay. I start running from 3 feet beyond, better chance of surviving. I want to shoot you. Hey, I'm 300 yards away. Bang. And guess what? They miss. So getting distance is the number one priority always. Now, let's talk about how we egress from the building. Now, before I forget, because I will forget at the end of this video probably, 4 pre-designated rally locations, physical hardened structures or points, geographical points within 100 yards to 150 yards, depending upon, where it's at, city or urban or whatever, rural. So within preferably a line of sight to the school, so you can corral the children that are getting turned around and confused along the way, and still be well outside of that 30-yard range, and still have increased probability of survival, especially if you just get down to the prone, wait for kids to come, tell them to come your way, get back down to the prone. So that's where we go to when we do evacuate. Now, how do we get out? Well, the first story floors is very easy. It's insane the number of kids that were killed on a first floor in all these active shooter incidents. Almost all of them. Almost every child killed in a school shooting is killed on the first floor, with the students on the second and third floors left to basically just hunker down and hope and pray and try to not die, which is technically a hostage situation if you kind of think about it. So not only are we keeping our people in danger by not implementing the techniques I'm about to talk to you about for those upper floor students, not only were we adding to their trauma of sitting there, but we're actually creating a hostage situation, making it much more difficult for law enforcement and police to respond and arrive. I can make a whole separate video about that: hot zone, warm zone, cold zone. But I digress on the first floor, we need to install some sort of egress windows. Very easy to do, whether it's a punch out, pop out, lever out, whatever it is. It could still maintain physical security from nobody entering inside of the school, and we could still have the ability to quickly pop that thing out and exit it if we do need to exit the school. And then in the event of rehearsals or drills or maybe even false alarms, we're not smashing a million windows and causing the school $10 million worth of repairs. All we're doing is just popping out the emergency egress windows and having students exit out of them. First floor, first story. Very simple to do. The second thing to do is fire escape ladders. They're these chain ladders that compress, and you can actually install them in your drywall so that it is aesthetically pleasing and you will not even know it is there. So here's an example of the ladder. Here's a chain one, which is what would most likely be used in a school. And we can get these custom designed. I mean, you kidding me? We're talking about schools here. If we actually use the funding towards something that was smart, like designing a specified fire escape ladder that was slightly larger than the industry standard for increased child safety. Look, here's a picture of 2 kids doing it right now. So these can be installed in the drywall where they just stick out with a little tab, and then see, like right here even, or you just put it inside of that. Basically at the base of the window, you open up that window, you throw that ladder out, and now you start to exit via that ladder, get to the ground, and then you take off running to those pre-designated rally locations. We're not turning our schools into a prison. We're not turning them into a fortress, but yet we are applying common sense principles to give our kids the best chance possible of surviving one of these atrocious incidents, which there's like almost 500,000 kids have directly experienced these things, I think, as of the latest stats. So, which is another thing. There's no stats on any of these incidents that are publicly available, like where the students were killed, where the bodies were found, what the injuries sustained were. So that's kind of also strange to me as well, but I have my own theories on that. A couple of examples, guys, is just like Parkland, Columbine. The library victims were jumping out of the library, but the library was elevated on like a second, kind of like comes out the ground, second story type thing. And so there was a lot of injuries apparently associated with that. And just by putting in these fire ladders, it would have mitigated those injuries and possibly allowed people to, escape, more people to escape. My point for this video, guys, is that lockdowns when the threat is inside the building is stupid. And I am not mincing words on that. I am not over-exaggerating. That is pretty dumb. Why not get out of the first story windows whenever you can? Obviously, we'll talk about keeping people outside in another video, but get out of the first story windows. Like, go. You have escape ladders installed in our schools across the country. Like, do it. Drill it. And what's cool is that the drills will actually then become fun. You could turn that into an event where we're climbing out of ladders, we're climbing out of windows, get the fire department there, bring in the local police, let's coordinate and turn it into a positive learning experience as opposed to some crazy dramatized, everybody's dead school shooting, like fake with blanks. That's just crazy. We need to start treating these in a like massively different context. Rapidly just flip the script and say, hey, obviously this sucks. Cool, we all agree. Now let's at least make it fun because we're going to be training for it. And if it's a fun, controlled atmosphere and a safe environment, we're going to retain that information at a much greater rate of speed as opposed to if we're sitting in a high stress, cortisol induced environment and we're not exactly sure what this person's talking about. I don't have any confidence I'm going to survive. I think that I'm screwed. I think I should just exit the window, but I'm totally just locked down in place. I don't understand what's going on. That is a horrible. And these are our schools. You guys are supposed to be our institutions of education and learning. And you don't see this, you don't recognize this. So make it fun. People will come. Hell, who wants to take their kids with me to a school? I will go, if we get a group of parents together and we go to your kids' schools or any school that will let us use them in the local area, I will personally bring fire escape ladders. I will personally try to find windows that obviously we can't just install or break a window at the school, but I would be shocked if none of the schools had any windows that you could actually escape from. I'm sure there's at least one out there somewhere. So I will go do it right now with you guys and teach your kids how to really make it through an active shooter situation by getting the hell out of there and going somewhere. But then the important thing after that is they have to communicate. We have to have a strong communications plan, especially because the school's not on board. They're going to be all just sitting there crazy. So a couple of interesting stats. Again, most incidents are 19 minutes in duration, or average of 19 minutes in duration, but I don't know, 64% I found were under 15 minutes in length. But that kind of also emphasizes the point where it's like, hey, rapid evacuation is super important. People aren't escaping out of these buildings and out of these classrooms. Why? Because there is no plan. And so that's why they're just freezing in place and locking down and becoming casualties. We're collecting casualties like we shouldn't be. So remind yourself that it's a 19-minute average next time you're doing a lockdown and it's only for 4 minutes. That's bullshit, just so you know. So what do we do with all this information and stuff? Urge schools to invest in egress systems. Look, $2.7 billion school security industry and 98% of schools with active shooter plans, but no egress focus. That was a stat that Gronk pulled up off of the internet. I don't know how true or accurate that is, but check that out and let me know because that is insane if 98% of schools, which doesn't surprise me because I've talked to literally hundreds of schools, like 100 and, I don't know, 15 or something. And all of them have not worked with me except for the one, which I don't even count because it was just the most miserable experience of my life working with that school. But my point is do you want your kids sitting there and getting shot in the face? No, I want my kid to get out of there. And most of you are probably already telling your kids this anyway. So we need to be bringing this up to the schools. Yeah. All right, guys. I hope that makes sense. Let me know your questions. In the next couple of videos, I'm going to go over when lockdowns can actually be beneficial to our kids' schools, i.e. the threat is on the outside of the building. But once the threat is inside the building, they need to be getting out. And I think that these are just really simple, great ways to do that. And then the other video is going to be about prevention and how my theories have unfolded over the years and what I've been learning and looking into when it comes to violence prevention, things like that. So please challenge me. I want somebody to tell me I'm wrong. I want somebody to tell me wrong. I want somebody to explain to me and show me how I'm possibly wrong, because that would at least make me realize I've been crazy all these years and not just saying this to everybody and making total sense, and yet nobody's listening to me. So if this does not sound like it would work, I am just want to know, like, please tell me, but have it make sense. Otherwise, I'm convinced 100% this is the best way to do it. And here's the other aspect of all this is that if we begin to get really great at evacuating these types of situations, then the amount of casualties being inflicted are going to be greatly reduced consistently over a period of time. And then the shooter's still going to die or get arrested or whatever it is. So they're still going to get the bad outcome without attaining their goal of shooting and killing as many people as possible. So when that starts to happen consistently over a period of time, it's not going to be seen as such a viable option to conduct massive pain and hate and inflict hate and harm upon so many people, because it hasn't been effective at doing so over X amount of time frame. So that's it. Let me know your thoughts. Take care.